Hi everyone, in this video we are going to go over what to do when we receive a site file from a client. Normally we would receive a site file with the format of DWG, and essentially we just want to clean it up, make it look nicer, so it's not so heavy in our Revit files. So go ahead and open up the file in AutoCAD here, and then in the bottom in our command we're going to be using that. Essentially we're going to be doing what's called a right block, which is cleaning up and only selecting the objects in the site file that we want to bring over to our Revit file. So again, in the command bar here, we're going to type in WB for WBlock, press enter, and then you want to make sure that you have your objects selected. We're going to click a point. We're going to click a point that we know that in the site file will not likely change. So usually like a property line or something would do well. So I'm going to go ahead and snap to this point right here. And then we're going to go ahead and right now you see no objects were selected. So we're going to go ahead and select objects. So click on this. I'm going to click on the top left corner, drag it all the way down to the bottom right corner, and then press enter. And now we have everything selected in the site file that we want. Now, sometimes in a site file there could be much more content that's beyond what we have selected. So I can do an example here. So for example, if we only wanted, this septic tank, for example, I would go something like this and then deselect any object that I don't want, and we can write a WBlock only on the septic tank for this example. So imagine getting a site file with a bunch of other stuff. We only want to bring over this small part of the site into Revit. But for this example, we do want to bring everything over, so we will press enter. Again, we have everything over. The next thing we want to do is go down to these three little dots, and we're going to save. Make sure I'm in the right place. Yes, desktop here. Normally, we would save the file. It would have a letter with the project number. Spell that wrong. -MP for master plan, and then we would normally write clean. And there we go. And then we'll go ahead and save the file. And then before we save, we're going to check your units. By default, it's in inches, possibly. So if you need it maybe in feet, millimeters, meters, or anything. For here, I'm just going to put feet since we're using imperial, not metrics. So let's go ahead and click save. It's going to take a couple seconds here to run the WBlock if it's a large file. This one was pretty quick. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head and we're going to close this CAD file, the site that we got from the client. We want to reopen the one that we just created, the one that's with the WBlock right here. So go ahead and open that one up. The first thing we're going to want to do is, again, you shouldn't see any of the objects that are beyond that you aren't selected. If you do, then you probably didn't do it correct, so I would redo that WBlock part. We're going to go to the command bar here at the bottom. We're going to type in Z for zoom and then E for extend, and it should only zoom in to what we had selected in WBlock. Again, if we did that and it did this way out here, that means somewhere out in the in the file, in the abyss, there's elements, there's data, there's lines, there's something out there. So you may need to redo your WBlock. But in this case, typing Z and then E, press enter, it zooms into everything that we want shown in Revit when we bring it over. Another thing we can do here is we can do an audit. So in the command bar, if you want to type in audit, do you want to fix any errors? We're going to type in Y for yes, and it's going to run. If there is any errors found, you want to hit yes to correct those errors. In this case, there's no errors found, 0 found. So that's great. The last thing we can do is, if you go to the command bar, you want to type in PU for purge. We'll go to purge, and normally you just have everything selected, and you can just purge all. If there's only certain things you wanted to purge, you would just purge checked items. This file doesn't have anything to purge, but if you do have a file, you can purge all. And I recommend doing it like 2 or 3 times, because sometimes some things don't get purged the first or even the second time. So keep doing all the purges. It usually takes 2 or 3 times until you can't purge anything more. The last thing that we're going to check is, again, some of these files that we receive from clients are pretty messy. If you go to a 3D and you look to your side, there might be elements that are floating way above or way below. We want to essentially just flatten this CAD file so we don't have objects and lines going below or above the plane, the site. So the easiest way to do this is going to be bringing over this site file into Revit. So let's go ahead and save our file that we have, our WBlock file. Let's go over to Revit and let's go to a new file. And we're going to do with no template. We don't really need a template for this. Imperial doesn't really matter. Go ahead and open that up. And then in the ribbon up here, we're going to go to insert. And we want to link CAD. Again, you don't want to import CAD, you want to link it. So go to link and then find the file that you have, which is right here, under desktop. And it doesn't really matter, current view only right now, that's okay. More importantly, we want to convert it to black and white, unless for some reason you want to keep the color. Most of the time for projects, we want to make it black and white. We want to uncheck correct lines that are slightly off axis. Sometimes Revit can skew these lines more than what we really want than what we got from the client. Origin's fine, and level 1 is fine. So again, make sure we have that selected, bring it in. Now we have the CAD file. You can see here it brought it in black and white. And now what we want to do is we want to export this as a CAD, and that'll Revit automatically flatten it for us and make it really easy. So go to File over here, go to Export, and then go to CAD Formats, DWG, and then go ahead and click Next. And we can override this, but just to distinguish the two difference, I'm going to go ahead and add ED for cleaned. This probably shouldn't be any views to export out, so we have a cleaned. We know that's it, so I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Now, if you go back to AutoCAD, let's close the previous one. Let's go ahead and open the cleaned one and double check. You want to go to your side here, and you should not see any elements above or below. Everything in the file should be flattened now. After doing that in Revit, you can see when we brought it back into CAD, it's in black and white now. It's much cleaner. You can also do ZE again, zoom extent, just to make sure that nothing got thrown off by going in and out of Revit. So that looks good. Our site CAD file is clean and ready to go now and ready to be inserted into our Revit site model. And just go ahead and don't forget to hit save. And yeah, that's it. All right, guys, one last thing I want to mention is when we receive a new site file from a client to replace an existing site file, what we want to do is we want to essentially do the same thing. We want to repeat the whole WBlock process, doing the purge, doing the audit, bringing it into a brand new blank Revit model, flatten it, bring it back into AutoCAD, and again, doing the zoom extent, making sure that everything looks clean. So imagine, to distinguish between the two site files, let's just say the new one has a circle here so we can tell what's been changed. So here's our new site file. We just cleaned it up. Everything looks good. What we want to do is we want to go to Save As now, and we want to save as the same file as the previous site file. By doing this, the site will just land right on top of its existing location, so there's no need to rotate or edit anything when we get into Revit. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to override the existing one. I'm going to go back into it. So here's our Revit file, assuming we have the previous site file you see here without the circle that's loaded in. We want to update it now to the new master plan that we received from the client. So we're going to go over here to under your Manage ribbon. You're going to go to Manage Links. You're going to go to your CAD formats. And then here's our file, but we want to reload it now to the newest one we received. So you usually can just go right here and just click reload. You might have to go to reload from and find the file and reload it. If it's pretty large, it might take a moment, but this one looks like it's done. We're going to hit OK. And look at this. Now we have a site file that's updated. And how I know, again, is we added a circle. Everything stayed in place. Nothing moved. And that's how you update a site file when we get a new revision, is, again, clean it up and save as, and if you did everything correctly, it should pop right into place. So I hope that was helpful again, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.